Hello and welcome to Mr. Red Dragon 543, and today we're going to talk about communication and why the hell it is humanity's blessing and curse at the same time. It is within no doubt that communication can be a struggle for a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people. It is unfortunate too because sometimes people don't understand what's going on. So what am I talking about here? So without a doubt, communication is something that connects people together, but at the same time, it can tear people apart very, very quickly. Should I even have glasses on? No, no. I mean, I can't see myself, but who cares? Uh, but no. So what I'm gonna say is, with communication, it's one of those things that is very, mm, it's difficult. Sometimes, especially with how people operate, a lot of people have different mindsets, uh, different views, and unfortunately, there can be very, let's say, manipulative people, unfortunately. And here's the problem with communication as a whole, is in order to get through in life, you kind of need that communication to get places that you want to get to. So for people who, want to find success or relations in their life, the best part is to work on your communication. And communication leads to connections, which leads to better opportunities, believe it or not. Um, as much as people want to say that, you know, the system is rigged, which in all fairness, it kind of is, but at the same time, it isn't. Like, it's rigged with bias. And bias also works in conjunction with manipulation, which is a bad form of the point. So, why am I talking about this video? Well, because I suck at communicating. It's one of my biggest downfalls, and it's probably not good that some of my communications can lead into uh, misguidedness, I guess. A lot of people take what I say and push it to an extreme, which I can see for some part can be relatively refined. I don't know, but it's very interesting. So in my spare time, I like to study psychology, and whether or not that's something I should be doing, it has ultimately led me to some form of reasoning and some form of clearance of what I struggle with and what some people also struggle with. Unfortunately, that's how people are. So yeah, so some communication is very tough that way. For instance, like if somebody were to tell me to do something, let's say they were to say, okay, you know, we want you to go to the store and pick up a few things. One, it'd be best if, sometimes I may need a list or something. If I can remember that I have that list. See, that's the other problem is memory and stuff. I do have troubles with memorizing uh, certain things. It's weird. So yeah, um, but it's a very interesting thing because communication can also bring people apart as well. Like I mean, sometimes it's just that lack of communication that can just wreck your life, and unfortunately, it's not entirely your fault at all. Sometimes it's just the other person with bad intentions who take your weakness and just tear a gaping hole in it, and it's unfortunate. You know, it is the worst form of manipulation that there is. There's people who've lost connections with people. There's people who've lost connections with close family members. There's even people who've died for it or over it, I should say. You know, like somebody just it's ultimately bad. Uh, how communication is such a very paradoxical. It is essentially the human paradox. You know, it can help it can help start something great, but at the same time, if you're not careful, it can also tear things down, and it's pretty bad. It really is bad. I should put my glasses on. Everything's getting blurry, and I think it's snowing outside. Yeah. Yeah. Today is January 30th, 2019. Dude, I do state dates sometimes in my videos because I do lose track of time. Uh, and yeah, pretty bad. Uh, it sucks having communication issues, as well as the fact that communicating in itself is interesting. I mean, it has got to be the word. I mean, that's the problem. Is sometimes communication brings out the worst, but it can also bring out the best. I mean, it brings something. But I mean, I think that's the thing is, I wish to be better with my communication, and I wish to have better understandings of things. Sometimes that's the other problem is understanding certain elements. You know, not everyone's going to have all perspectives there. Not everyone's going to have the right perspective, and not everyone's going to understand what's really happening. It's a shame, you know. Oh, it's a really big shame. I mean, if I had better communication, I, I, all I can say is that I've I've had an IEP for years, which is a individual education plan, because of the fact that I have troubles with communications and writing and stuff. It's a real issue for me, and I can see why other people have difficulties too, and it's tough. I mean, it's undeniable that everyone does have communication issues, especially amongst communities and amongst even their own, and it's but how would I don't know. I don't even know if there's even a way to better with people's communications. It's just one of those things that, like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's up to the person themselves to whether or not that they want to receive help to better their communications and stuff, or if they even realize they need help. That's another thing. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of people see it. A lot of people don't. I don't know. I don't even know if you guys can hear me properly. Probably not. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting because I mean, this is the thoughts that go through my head. It's like, I want to make a video. So much information processing in my head, but at the same time, it's like, where do I start? Where do I end? What do I talk about? I mean, my rating sucks, so even if I try to rate it all down, half the time I don't even understand my own writing. That's how bad it is. I mean, it's like, do I even understand myself at times? It's like, probably not. Fucking hell, it's funny as much as I hate to say it. Not even my mom can understand me half the times, and she's the one who's like, oh yeah, I understand you best, but it's like, how do you understand when I don't even live with you? You know, I like I think like that's the thing is like, my best friends who I call brothers, they probably understand me a lot more because they have siblings who have, other disabilities and stuff, and they understand a lot more because they themselves kind of reflect like, okay, this is something that we kind of grew up with, knowing that, like, yeah, there's obviously going to be issues. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I got off track like how many times? I mean, I don't know. I get off track a lot. Off track a lot. Um, it, 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 it's, it's, yes, this is pretty cool. This is a stress toy, or I don't even know if it's a toy. It's like a little makeshift gear shift. I don't know. My dad got me a Star Wars clock for my birthday, and I guess in the clock, this came with it, and it's like it's it's something to help with stress. Oh yeah, that's something to touch upon is communication and mental illness. Whether or not people want to admit it or not, I think a lot of mental illness works in conjunction with bad communication. And it's not just like communication with peers and family, it's also like lack of understanding, like what's going on in your mind, what's happening around you. You get confused. And sometimes, I know with myself, I tend to panic when I don't understand something sometimes, and sometimes I've had heart pains from it, unfortunately. Um, Sometimes, and it sucks because it's like after I get everything cleared up, it's like why did I panic like that? Why did I do that? It's like, and that's the problem with me is that just like a lot of people, I sometimes jump to conclusion without understanding, and that's another problem. Is that jump is dangerous. You know, that's why when people communicate, I think it's best to understand the full story of situations, or like, if you're gonna start a relationship with someone, you might want to, find out about who they are and stuff first before jumping into any hot takes. I don't know. Fucking, if I was the smartest person in the world, fucking, I don't think I'd even be human. Fucking, I don't know. But it is as it is. What is it? It is difficult. And like I said, the best part about communication is the fact that you can grow together with people, and you meet people who you never thought you'd meet before just by simply talking to them and reaching out to them. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes, certain communications and certain elements about personalities and stuff can cause the magnet effect, where positives and negatives, sometimes, they click, and then if you have two positives, sometimes they don't click, and two negatives don't click. I don't know. 2019. Wow. You know. What goes on? I mean, it's interesting. What goes on in life? I mean, everyone's so different, but I mean, another problem with communication is the technology in which we have at our hands and stuff. I mean, it really is interesting. I mean, I went for a whole month without using technology, or 2 months, and it was interesting because it's like you can sometimes see the troubles a lot more when you are more aware. You know, it's like technology in itself is a drug, and that's the thing is, where do you go from there? Where do you go? Uh, but yeah, so communication through technology is one of the most troublesome things I've ever seen. Um, Especially with the, you know, mob mentalities of people who get so like they join communities and activists, and this is why I never will be an activist of any sort, because it's like, to me, I see them more of an issue because it's like they're not looking out for everyone around them. They tend to be a lot more selfish because that's what their views are based off of. And instead of trying to sit down and talk, you know, and see how things can, you know, potentially be better with certain solutions, they tend to go out of their ways, victimizing themselves and villainizing innocents, and it's horrible. And it's led to some issues of people getting doxxed, where information online gets leaked of where people live, their full names, their phone numbers, their address. That is where they live. I don't know why I repeat myself. Repeat. But it is dangerous because it's like, at the same time, it's like you do not want that. You do not want that in your life, because it's like, it's dangerous, you know, and it is illegal to do. You do not dox people. You do not go into people's accounts, because that is a privacy act that you can get in trouble for by law. And at the same time, if you're not careful enough, if you go into somebody's privacy and there's something, you know, there, let's say, then you could be liable because, one, you're the one in that account in the first place. And as much as people try to excuse it, it's like or try to make excuses. Fortunately, it relies on the responsibility of that person to be smart enough to be like, okay, maybe I'm not being smart here. So if you're going to break into people's accounts, dox them, or even, get people fired, like, I find that stupid where people are now aimlessly going after people, finding out where they work, calling their bosses, and getting them single-handedly fired. The huge problem is, if you're taking away jobs from people that way, getting people blacklisted, you're causing more issues to the economy for doing that, whether you realize it or not, because not only are, you know, because here's the problem: the more, people commit crimes and the more that cops get involved, the more, our governments can decide to be like, oh, well, now we have to raise everything up because we gotta, now we gotta fund them a bit more. So it's stupid. And what does that have to do with communication? Well, a lot. I mean, it's 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 a very dangerous world out there. You know, when I was growing up in the '90s as a kid, you know, the biggest fear that we really had was, you know, staying out late and, people actually snatching us. Like, that was a fear of the parents. So, and like, I was born in the 90s, so, like, early 90s. I was born 93. And it's relatively interesting that, seeing a bit of the generation gap with what it's like to kind of grow without and grow with technology, and how it's affected people traditionally and, like, momentarily, is so different. I mean, I don't know if they still had. I don't know if some people still had them in the 90s, but apparently, like, there would be people who, like, used to have, like, those the phones that would kind of be on a strap. They'd be pretty big phones. Like, they were, like, whatever. But I mean, the only technology people would usually have on themselves at that point was maybe a camera for, taking pictures of rare moments. But now you got people who, like, you go to a restaurant nowadays and you just see people texting on their phones, and it's it's weird because even though I'm part of the millennial group of that generation, I hate it. I hate seeing people out on their phones. It's like, come on, we're here. What's on your mind? Get off that. Oh, it's very dumb because I mean, when people are so focused on their phone, it's like, I think it causes more of a isolated feeling, even though you're around someone. It's it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, hmm, someone will know. Someone could put it better than I could. Hell, the mind is weird because it's like, I think people are so addicted to technology is because they see the lives of others that they wish they could have, and they're like, oh, this is cool, this is neat. Why can't I have that? It's like, well, you could, but I mean, the time that we focus on, all the technology and stuff, is like, where do we go from now? I'm just talking to a computer and you guys. So. But I mean, technically, if you think about it, even though this is a video, I'm talking at a computer. I don't even know if anyone's even going to watch this. I don't think that many people even really genuinely. I mean, I don't know. But that's the problem with communication. No one knows how to do it properly. Everyone, communication's like a experiment. It's like mixing chemicals together. You don't know what's going to work, and you don't know what's going to stick. But it's like the same thing. Well, I don't know. Like, this is the real me. No, what the fuck? That's the real problem with communication. one day you think nothing of it, the next you're handling more than you could ever bargain for. It's intense. I wish I could understand what I do say. I just don't know anymore. I mean, I think a lot of it too is pretty weird. I mean, how do I deal with trouble with communication? How do I socialize? I mean, I experiment with role plays, but I mean, sometimes it's interesting because I do role plays more of a psychology experiment to see what people are like. Usually, if I ever do role plays, how I do them is I go off of the other person's interest. And there's a lot of role plays that I do not agree with, but I go along with it. That's the issue. Is, sometimes it's like I want an understanding of like what the hell is going on. Sometimes people are into really fucked up shit. And there's sometimes people who just want to be talked to, and I think those are the people that are the ones that I get along most, is the ones who just want, someone to talk to and someone to just kind of hear them out, you know. With stigmas and communication too, I mean, it's a lot, like, I've had an IEP since elementary school, um, and it is difficult because it's like you're not exactly told what's happening. So all of a sudden you're in a classroom and you're told that you're different, and then you have another classroom who just mocks you for being stupid, and so you get stigmatized for having a disability, and eventually, you come to realize that it's not about being smart or stupid that brings out the best or worst in people. It's how you react and handle, I guess, situations. You know, uh, you can be calm. You can stay calm and collective, and you can let them have their fun and have their ways, and sometimes you can go along with it until they get bored, or you can do exactly what they want and give them a reaction in a negative manner. And unfortunately, that's the problem too. That's the problem. Is sometimes the reactions are horrible. I mean, if I ever get frustrated, I usually attack myself first and foremost because that's how I am. I get so frustrated that I attack myself because it's like I don't want to. I don't want to hurt people, and I think that's why it scares people when I do hurt myself, because it's like they see it as me being dangerous, but it's more the fact that it's like I'm trying my best to control, but it's like that frustration. So I hurt myself in a means to get back control because of I don't know why. I don't know why it makes sense to me. I don't know. Maybe someone could explain what goes through my mind, but it's just like that's how it is. If I'm hurt or I'm frustrated or I'm angry, I attack myself first and foremost. It sucks. You know? Sometimes I let things get to me. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't know. That's the problem with me is sometimes it's just best to kind of you know, I don't know. Sometimes I see life as one big puzzle that's always missing pieces, and it's like you're trying to put it together, and you're trying to make sense of it, but like the problem is there is nothing to make sense of it. I mean, there was a time and place on this planet where you know there was no laws. There's there's like a few generations in our history where we're fucking our brothers and sisters and fucking incest and breeding and shit. Fucking hell. Then laws came in place and they're like, nope. And I think that's another problem with communication is the divide on laws. I mean, some people think that laws are very contradictory to humanity as a whole. And some people see laws beneficial, but I mean, there's obviously the basics, the basic laws of like don't kill, don't steal, don't whatever, and like that stuff. But then there's some laws that are very questionable and very debated to even this day, where it's like, does this even make sense? You know, and it's weird because like you know back in the 20s, I believe, like you could own a car and you didn't even need a license plate. In fact, license plates were considered a decoration at one point. It wasn't mandatory. That's the honest truth, is it was a decoration back in the 20s. Or whenever fucking Ford decided to sell his fucking cars. Fucking that. Ain't that fucking ironic, isn't it? Yeah? No? Fucking who knows? But I gotta say, like, it's interesting because, like, you know, things that were seen as unimportant are all of a sudden seen as an issue. Like how many people got into accidents and stuff in order for there to be a law to be passed for having licenses. It's really interesting to think about. Then, you know, it's weird. It's humanity. Humanity's very weird. It's like it's the paradox of paradox. I mean, it's like I tend to game, right? I mainly play single player games because that's what I'm most comfortable with. When it comes to multiplayer games and stuff, I generally do not really play those because I'm not really interested in it. Like, there are some games that have multiplayer aspects to them, but I'd just rather play, single player, such as like Monster Hunter, uh, stuff like that. And I think that's relatively to the fact that, like, I don't know, I think, with things, like, I'm not a shooter person. Never was. Unless it's a sandbox shooter, then that's okay because it's sandbox and you can generally find other means instead of guns, which is funny. I mean, like in GTA, you know, you can always grab a car, you can always find a knife or something. You got those sneaky little weapons in there that are not always shooters, you know. Um, I mean, in Vice City, you can find a katana. I mean, that's pretty fucking badass. So, I mean, that's pretty interesting. And I think, like, that's the problem, too, is, like, with a lot of media these days, this is where another communication occurs, is media itself, because they tend to take a situation and they try to either make it a product of controversy, which in itself is where some things are very questionable, like there's definitely a lot of things, and it's weird because, like, whenever I see people try to attack gaming as a whole, and they're like, oh well, it makes people violent, it makes people sexist, it makes people racist. It's like, okay, and where's your points from, like the 19th, 18th century? This shit's been going on before technology was a thing, so you can't just point your finger and be like, oh, well, this did this. It's like, no, you know, fucking before gaming, fucking there was there was massacres. I mean, how do you explain civil wars? How do you explain the World War? There there was no gaming back then. So to try to excuse violence on stuff like that, it's like this is human nature, unfortunately. Whether we want to admit it or not, I think a lot of racism and sexism and stuff like that comes from, how people are brought up, certain belief styles and cultures, and even some religions, unfortunately, just promote that shit. And whether we want to admit it or not, it's honestly the truth. I mean, most wars were started because of religion and beliefs of such, And that's the thing with communication, is because of beliefs of saying things like, "Oh, my ideas are better than yours." It relates to power struggles, and it's like, come on. I mean, I think this is the thing, is like a lot of people, as much as they say that, like, oh, people are bad for fighting in wars and stuff, it's like, well, some people were forced into wars, whether they liked it or not. They were drafted. Some people were held at gunpoint. They either said, you fight in our war, you die. You know, fight a war or die as a coward. That's pretty much how it was, and I think that's, you know, a huge issue. You know, like all this stuff for history, we don't even know our own history. I mean, a lot of people are also trying to erase, you know, like history that's happened and shit. It's like, are you kidding me? You guys want to claim that you know what you're talking about, but like the thing is, if we don't have the histories to show us the wrong, then we can't learn solutions to make it better. You know, it's a huge issue because communication is about solving problems with better solutions, but at the same time, it's a science experiment. But this has been my thoughts on communicating, and you know, it's whatever. Um, if you enjoy what I said, or if you know, if you agree, whatnot, you know, reach out to me. You can talk to me, whatever. Um, but yeah, this has been Mr. Red Dragon 553, and I'll talk to you guys. Well, before I go, I might want to say, so for people who do watch my channel, which is not that many, but I know I have a couple spies. I know you're watching. Um, but people who are watching my channel, I am working. I do have a bunch of videos that I do have. It's just a matter of it's really dumb of making like thumbnails and stuff because I don't know, I want to make it a little bit neater. I mean, I don't really have the best recording stuff, but I mean, like, I do what I do. And that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, but as for future plans that I do want to get back into is I do want to jump back into stop motion, especially, you know, with what I got. Because it is enjoyable. I do like the aspect of making stop motion and stuff. I, uh, um, but yeah, uh, sorry. Uh, but yeah, so if you're wondering, to, uh, what goes through my mind and stuff like this, has been an hour almost. Holy shit! I'm sorry if I made you guys fall asleep, or I don't know. I gotta stop saying that. Okay, hold on. Sometimes it takes a while for me to regain my thoughts. um, but yeah. Um, uh, I hope you do enjoy maybe the or whatever something. You know, if you agree with what I said, you can always leave a comment down below. You know, whatever. Um, and if you ever want me on a podcast to talk and stuff, I could probably do that. I mean, probably through Discord and whatnot. I don't know, fucking figure shit out. Mind you, I do not have a microphone, so fucking you're probably stuck with shitty quality, and I apologize. That's life. It's, fucking crucial. But yeah, so this has been Mr. Red Dragon 543, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.